Good day and hello everyone. We are from Group 2. We'd like to present to you a topic entitled A Holistic Perspective on Corporate Sustainability Drivers by Rodrigo Lozano. Together with me here today we have Jeshri, Siti and also Xiaoyang.
I will introduce the introduction and objective part. First is about the introduction. The brief overview of expansion of corporate economic and political power highlights how corporations have become an important attention in sustainability debate, challenges in abiding sustainability principles, and introduction of corporate sustainability drivers that facilitate positive sustainability changes. Critics about this part is that although the introduction is easy to understand, but lacks in detail of the need for sustainability change, like corporate power and impacts of corporate actions. Further elaboration on these details would help to provide a more complete introduction and better support the rationale of the study. Overall, good and comprehensive introduction, especially in defining the corporate sustainability concept and change process. The next part is about the objective of the study. The research question is that what have been the drivers for corporate sustainability within the context of large corporations? The research objectives is that provide a more holistic perspective on the different corporate sustainability drivers in order to better change from the unsustainable status quo to a more sustainable oriented state. Critics about this part is that the rationale for this study because long-lasting corporate sustainability, so it requires holistic perspective on change management. And in this article, it explains the reason and need of the study. The second critique is that the rationale for relevance to existing and further knowledge. The article is building on Lorena 2012 paper and analyzing expert and leaders' interviews. In this article, it explains the difference from Lorena 2012 paper. It's about the leverage part of model. So actually, this part is good enough.
According to the literature review, while a number of corporate sustainability voluntary efforts have emerged, they have been limited in covering the whole spectrum of sustainability and its consequences for the organizations. Therefore, organization improvement for sustainability must go beyond changes in technology or management processes. They must also include cultural changes to build a long-term corporate sustainability. As you can see in Figure 1, shifting from status quo SQ to status quo novus SQN involves leverage that produce inertia for organizational changes towards a new and more sustainable status quo. In this study, the researcher focuses on the leverage component of the paradigm, and we agree that without the correct leverage, there will be no inertia to spark a transformation to a more sustainable status quo. Through the literature review, the author has extracted relevant drivers and has classified them into internal and external drivers by formulating a theoretical framework called the CS driver model. Personally, we find that this is a good way to summarize and link all of the drivers together by providing a clear overview. However, when we talk about a holistic approach, besides summarizing and linking all of the relevant drivers, the drivers themselves must be inclusive. This is where we feel that the paper falls short and where we can offer our constructive criticism on the proposed theoretical framework. There are 2 points we would like to highlight here. These include, while the CS model provides useful preliminary insight, it is oversimplifying the complexity nature of both the internal and the external drivers. For example, within the corporation, the drivers that drive the top management towards CS could be different than the drivers that drive the mid management and also the grassroots employee. At this point, this is where we feel that the term holistic does not really serve its purpose in this study. In addition to that, when we look at things from a holistic point of view, we also need to consider the barriers to CS. This is because both the barriers and also the drivers affect CS equally. Possible barriers such as government policy, resources, training, and capability constraint affect CS as much as the drivers do.
So now I'll be sharing my reviews and comments on the methodology and findings and discussions of this article. So first, let's see the overview of the methodology used in the study. So this is obviously a qualitative research kind of method. For the data collection, two methods were used. The first one is a secondary data, where previous literature were used to gather data on corporate sustainability drivers and methodology to develop a model to be compared with after the analysis, which is provided in figure 2. And the second method were used is primary data, which 17 participants were involved in 16 interviews that were conducted face-to-face, digitally recorded, and as a backup, note-taking were used. And semi-structured interview guides were used in this study to actually enhance the richness of the data and also to cover insights or any inputs that were not covered in the previous literature. And also the authors has mentioned that there might be a problem with validity and reliability of the data, which he or she managed to overcome with the use of data triangulation approach, where multiple sources of data collections were used to confirm the findings. So here we can see that the interviews were not only done to top level corporate managers, but also it is done with field experts. And for the data analysis, grounded theories, constant comparative analysis for steps were used, which I feel like it is similar to the thematic analysis, which uses 3 steps to arrive at a new or modified theory. So here I feel like the steps are fully described, and the methods for me is actually rigorous, but it lacks generalization because the number of interviews are quite small and the participants involved were only in North America and Western Europe region. And for me, it is possible to replicate, even though there is a challenge to access the primary data. But in this case, the author managed to get help from the gatekeeper in the corporation itself. So next we move on to the findings and discussion. Based on the secondary data, the author has developed a CS driver model here where it initially has 16 internal and 18 external drivers. And then during the interview analysis, they identified that 6 internal and 14 external drivers were mentioned in the interview. And on top of that, new drivers were also emerged, where 4 internal and 2 external drivers have been mentioned, which make up a total of 20 internal and 20 external drivers. So here, one thing I would like to highlight is that for a qualitative study like this, we should acknowledge that whatever items in the findings might be coded and categorized into the themes of classification. So in this case, I would like to bring you table 3 and 4 in this paper, which represent the internal and external drivers mentioned by the participants. So here, when we compared items in both tables with figure 3 here, we cannot match, and we might not have seen the same driver because the items in tables have been categorized into several themes in figure 3. For example, here in table 3, one internal driver mentioned is champion, but when we look at figure 3, there is no word of champion, but I would assume it has been categorized into leadership together with another internal driver that was mentioned, which is proactive leadership. So this, I could say, is one of the challenge of understanding the the qualitative research paper. So I'm not saying that this is paper is not good, but it's up to the reader's interpretation and the level of understanding. But the author did include extracts from the interview transcripts for the readers to actually get some ideas of the driver's concept. So here, overall, the findings did answer the research question. And for this, we move on to the ultimate findings in this paper, which is figure 4. Here, the drivers are actually the same with the previous model presented in figure 3. It's just that here, some of the internal and external drivers have become connecting drivers. So how come it became like that? It is actually because these factors that originate both within and outside the company, and they help integrating the internal and external drivers into a more connecting, a more connected sustainability strategy. So, for example, here the sustainability reports has become a connecting driver because it involves reporting on both internal sustainability initiatives like resources and cost savings, and also reducing risk with external sustainability impacts and pressure from the governments and competitors. So based on the grounded theory, the author has managed to come up with a modified model of CS driver that represents the motivation within the large organization. So this model indeed offers a holistic perspective on how companies can be more proactive to become a more sustainable oriented organization. So in achieving those, it proposed that companies should try to balance out these different drivers. So here, overall, I believe that these findings provide a valuable insights on drivers for CS within large corporations. And for future research, I would suggest that they try different contexts and industries to make it more general and effective, and to explore technology to support the corporate sustainability drivers.
Hello everyone, my name is Jayashri Krishna Rao and I will be discussing on the conclusion and opinions part of this article review presentation. So first, we'll just straight jump into the contributions. So this study has been a great addition to the existing literature of corporate sustainability, how you might say, because unlike previous literature that looks in section by section and separately, this study looks in a holistic perspective that focuses on being as a whole. So it has proposed a corporate sustainability driver model that includes all internal, external drivers and drivers that complements and connects them as well. So it has successfully achieved its objective in determining the drivers of corporate sustainability in large corporations context. Next, they have provided a brief knowledge about managing drivers and how it's a challenge for corporate leaders in managing drivers of sustainability because it offsets or give raise to one another. So apart from that, they have this practical application which this corporate sustainability model can be used as a tool to assess and align their sustainability drivers, and whereby corporates can use and be more proactive in their change towards the sustainability oriented corporations. So for that, we'll go into the recommendations. So this study is a qualitative approach study that has used semi-structured interviews with top-level managers as well experts. So with that, it is suggested to use a quantitative study for future research with like surveys or focus groups, and also consider towards the drivers and its importance, which this study has lacked. Because in the main findings, they did not give a very detailed analysis of these drivers, whether of its explanation or importance or impacts. And also, like I've mentioned, they focus on these top level managers and experts, which they fail to look into the different hierarchy levels and also the geographical location, which is a limitation as well as a weakness. So future researchers could also consider all this as well as the external stakeholders. So apart from that, we could look into they have suggested on the leadership types, which has been one of the main internal drivers of the study. and to look into the role of leadership in driving sustainability and also its impact of different leadership types in corporate sustainability. So as for the critics, commonly for the conclusion, we could identify a quick overview of the main findings, which in the study were given in the end of the discussion part. So also the limitations of the study have been mainly focused in the methodology and also was not in a very organized manner. It was pretty much scattered around the methodology and discussions part, and that is one critic. And also apart from critics, we could advocate this study for its good suggestion for future research and also for a good starting point for future research on drivers of corporate sustainability. So for the opinion, before determining whether it's advocate or critic of the study, we would look into the strengths and weaknesses. And research question is definitely one of the strengths because it has been very well defined and also serves as a guide throughout the study. And unlike the previous studies or articles that have been included in the literature of corporate sustainability, this article has a very comprehensive overview of drivers of corporate sustainability within large corporation. And if you'd like to relate back to the course materials, economic sustainability, which is the ability of economic system to maintain its productivity and growth while ensuring it meets the needs of present and future generations. And economic sustainability is just one of the important aspects of corporate sustainability, which looks into the practices of managing the company operations in a way that it meets the present needs and without compromising the future ability to meet future generations of meeting their needs. So, through identifying the drivers of corporate sustainability, corporates are able to achieve the economic sustainability as well, transitioning from unsustainable status quo to more sustainable oriented corporations. So in that way, they also could create a framework of how this internal and external or the drivers that complements or connect them that could impact the operations. So it's very useful for the corporations especially to be more proactive and also towards the change of having a much sustainable business practices. So, and also they have this very rigorous methodology of collecting and analyzing the data. It has been very well described, and also it's applaudable of how they have addressed the potential threats to validity and reliability and how they discuss of the solution of doing it. And they have credible suggestions for future research. So these are the strengths. And for the weakness, it's very clear that they lack of information on the sample selection representatives. And also the sample selection, you could say that this is a holistic perspective that should include all the perspective and identify the related drivers. And but this study has only focused in the top level managers and experts, and it has a hierarchical biasness, and also the geographical locations have its limitations. So it does not represent the entire population, and it also lacked the detailed analysis of its finding, like I've already mentioned in my recommendation part, that it could explain more on the drivers that have been identified, its importance, impacts, and such. And also the limitations were only focused in the methodology. They should have tried to go beyond that and throughout any limitations that have been found throughout the study, and include it in an organized manner in the conclusion part. And also, like I would suggest that there could be a more better improved article with a mixed method approach with qualitative and quantitative together, surveying and focus groups. So these are the strengths and weaknesses, and for the overall opinion, we would like to advocate because it's a very useful article, especially for corporates in their transition to a much more sustainable oriented corporates. And that will be all. Thank you very much and have a great day.